Welcome back. We continue live right here with the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Bob Pompeani at 412-575-2600. Check it out tonight at 11 o'clock. Got a lot of hockey highlights to show you, as well as comments from Casey DeSmith and Mike Sullivan regarding the concussion to Matt Murray, and Mike Tomlin talking about not backing off of his criticism of the NFL referees. That's all tonight at 11 on KDKA-TV. Meantime, a lot of tweets and a lot of calls regarding playing time and how you would divide playing time when Le'Veon Bell gets back and if James Conner continues to produce. Richard McFadden says, quote, I think Gene last night had a good idea the other day. Get them both on the field at the same time. Well, Richard, Mike Tomlin doesn't play that way, and he's not going to do it. I've already pretty much come to that conclusion. It's going to be one or the other, although you may see, again, somebody come in, whether it's Conner or Bell in relief, just for a series or two to start at least, and we'll see how it goes. Golden Rue on Twitter says, Bob, no way do you pay Bell that kind of money and make him a backup. Use him. Line 2, let's go to Roberta in Sharpsburg. Hey, Roberta, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Bob?
Good, thanks.
Hey, I think that if Bell comes back, I still think they should play James Conner. Bell has to learn he's got consequences. I don't think he's in shape to play anyway.
Well, that's going to be one of the determining factors when he comes in. They're going to see what that is, and I think I would do the same thing. I would continue to, and I would work Le'Veon Bell in. When Le'Veon Bell shows me he's not only ready, football ready, I'm talking about, then you know we'll see how things go. If Conner continues to put up bigger numbers, then you stick with him. I think it's a simple thing. But if not, Le'Veon Bell is, to me, the more talented guy. I think James Conner is proving he could be an everyday kind of running back, but he's still, to me, not Le'Veon Bell when I see Le'Veon Bell on a larger amount of work. So it just depends on how things roll, but I think those are two good guys to have around. They want to win a championship right now this year, and if you have both and they're both good down the stretch, that could be a big asset moving into the postseason.
Yeah, but I don't think Le'Veon Bell is a team player.
Yeah, it's more about me. I get that. He's trying to set standards when it comes to money. But, hey, he's still a big part of this team, and if he's here and they're paying him, they're going to use him. Thanks for the call. 412-575-2600. Jim in Butler. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hey, Bob, I have an off-the-wall question for you.
Not unusual on this show.
Can you still drop kick in pros or college?
I think so. I haven't seen it in a long, long time, so that's a good question. I'll double check on that one because I don't have the exact answer here, but I think you can, yes.
Thanks, Bob.
Appreciate that. Here we go. It's Nunzio and Braddock. Hey, Nunzio, how are you?
Hey, Bob. Hey, trying to make it quick. I asked you last week, when's the last time the Steelers won when they had 11 rushes per carry, per game.
Per game.
And the reason I did that was because I was trying to show you they need to run the ball. The first game of the year, Conner ran for 33 times for buku yardage and some passes. The second, third, and fourth game combined, he ran for 32 times.
Right.
Not much productivity. And last week you saw what happened when he had the ball 33 times again. I think the coaching staff needs to put their money in him because we got to run the ball to keep the defense off the field.
I agree with that, and I think we saw that. They went back to basics in that first drive. They hadn't scored in the first quarter all season long. Not only did they score in the first quarter, they scored in the first drive, and they get 14 points in that first quarter, largely because it was a good mix, led by the run game first. And as far to your point, James Conner, like a lot of good backs, gets better with more activity. It's very difficult to get a carry and then go a couple of series without one, and then get another one and expect to have some sort of rhythm. So I think it is an important component, but this is a pass-happy league, and quarterbacks like to pass the ball. But I think largely when the Steelers do that overabundantly, they get big numbers, but they don't get wins, and it's all about wins. Let's go to Mike in Johnstown. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
My question is for Bob. How does he feel about the play calling on third down and, say, 16? We're only rushing 3-4 guys. If we throw that fifth, sixth guy in there, maybe they complete the pass. Maybe it's only 8 yards.
First of all, I don't know what specifically you're talking about 3rd and 16. Why you would pick that number? I think when you look at the Steelers or look at an offense, they don't have many plays into 3rd and 16. You got to try to get to the first down marker and try to get beyond it. So I think it's really difficult for an offense to convert. So anyway, we're going to take a break. We'll do it. Come back with more right here on Pittsburgh CW.